Welcome to the 16th episode of Byte-Sized JavaScript. In the past episode, we created a very basic static website and tested it locally. And in this episode, we'll create an end-to-end deployment pipeline for our web application and make our website live on the internet. Our application will be utilizing Amazon Web Services or AWS, and we'll be deploying our application into an AWS S3 bucket. And since I've already deployed this application beforehand, I'll just walk through where the files are and which configurations I made to the AWS console, so that if you decide to do a similar deployment by yourself, you'll at least have a rough idea of what to put where or how to configure things. We'll first investigate our Amazon S3 buckets, and to reach our buckets, we'll tap this link on the Amazon Web Services admin console and go there. So we have two buckets set up. One of them is Byte-Sized.tv, which is our website, and the other is www.bytesize.tv, which is also a canonical alias to our Byte-Sized TV website. It is very important to name these buckets identical to the domain names that we are using. So if we have a website called Byte-Sized TV, the name of the bucket should be identical to Byte-Sized TV. Otherwise, you won't be able to route your public website to these buckets in the AWS ecosystem. So this requirement also introduces a mild annoyance because S3 buckets must have unique names globally. So if someone creates a bucket that has your own domain name, no one else in the Amazon ecosystem can have the same bucket name. So even though there is a domain name available, the bucket name might not be available beforehand. So if you are planning to buy a domain name and if you want to use Amazon S3 as the static website hosting provider for yourself, it makes sense to first reserve the bucket and then go and purchase the domain name. So if that's clear, let's move on. Let's first drill down into this Byte-Sized.tv bucket. So let's upload the new version of the website again by using the upload link that comes up when you tap this actions dropdown. We'll then select files and upload them one by one, folder by folder. However, doing this manually is a tedious task, so it's better to integrate this process into a CI/CD pipeline, so to speak. So for this, we'll use our beloved deployment tool, Buddy. So for that, we'll first create a new project by tapping this icon in our Buddy workspace, and then we'll select GitHub and then pick our Byte-Sized TV repository where the source code of our website lives. Then we'll tap this Create a New Project button. And for our first action, we'll select S3 because we want to upload our files to an S3 bucket. And then we'll provide our AWS access key and secret key. And after that, we'll select how to upload to Amazon. In our case, we'll be picking the repository and tap the browse link here to select the correct path to upload. And we'll pick our public folder and use its path to be deployed. We'll also select Byte-Sized TV as the bucket ID, and then we'll tap Test Connection to check whether we can actually upload to S3 without any problem. And seeing that we can, we'll add this action to our pipeline. And it's that easy. We have successfully set up our first CI/CD pipeline. This pipeline will run whenever we push or merge to our master branch, as we'll see shortly. So let's go into this pipeline by tapping here and then give a more meaningful name to it. For instance, Byte-Sized.tv. Then let's tap Manage Action to add a new action to our pipeline. As a second follow-up action, we'll add a Slack notification so that we'll be able to notify the Byte-Sized JavaScript Slack releases channel whenever there is a new build. And for the channel, I'll pick the releases channel and then test the action. So it looks like our action works as expected and we can see it on the Slack channel. So we can now add this action by tapping this button. So now whenever we merge to master, it will trigger an upload job to S3, and when the upload is completed, we'll get a Slack notification on our Slack releases channel, which is cool. So let's see the entire pipeline. For that, I'll make a minor change in the repository, push it, and then we'll see if the pipeline catches it. For instance, let's edit this readme file and put some dummy command that won't be visible at all. Then commit our changes and go back and check Slack. So now we get a notification, which also means that our pipeline has been executed successfully. But one question is it also updating the S3 bucket? To test it, I'll update this public folder and create a new test.txt file on it and save it. And again, it publishes on Slack, and when I refresh the S3 bucket, we'll see that it has uploaded the file to the S3 as well. Now let's look at the properties of this Byte-Sized TV bucket. You can see that there is a publicly available link for it, and when we browse to that link, we can see the website. However, this domain name is not something that you can remember easily, so we wanted to point to a more memorable domain name like Byte-Sized.tv, for instance, and we'll see how to do that shortly. But before that, let's go back to our console. When we go to the Permissions tab and edit the bucket policy, we'll see that there is a public policy which defines public access to everything under this bucket. So because of this policy, we can publicly browse anything that we uploaded to this bucket, which also helps us create a public website for this bucket. And when we look at the static website hosting section, we see that we have hosting enabled and our default document is index.html. And we also have an error document that gets displayed, for instance, when there is a broken link or there is something that cannot be located on the website. And we also have logging enabled, and we are saving the logs into a separate bucket. Now let's check the www.bytesize.tv bucket, and in the properties static website hosting, we have a single redirection rule to redirect any request that comes to this bucket to bytesize.tv. So the only purpose of this bucket is to do redirection. So when I paste this URL into the browser, I'll be bounced back to https bytesize.tv. But there is still something missing. How do I bind this Byte-Sized.tv and www.bytesize.tv domain names to these buckets, kind of? So to do that, we'll first need to define a CloudFront distribution, as you see here. CloudFront is the content delivery network of Amazon Web Services. So it takes your assets and globally distributes them to edge locations across the world so that people can browse your website faster because they'll be fetching the resources from a geographically closer cache location. And when you drill down into the details of this distribution, you'll see that we are using Byte-Sized TV and www.bytesize.tv as canonical names for this bucket, and this is really important. And to serve the content through HTTPS, we also have registered our SSL certificates to this CDN. And to create and register SSL certificates, we are using ACM, which is AWS Certificate Manager. One thing to pay attention is you have to create your certificates in the correct region, otherwise you won't be able to use them. So this particular certificate that we are using is valid for Byte-Sized TV and www.bytesize.tv domains, and we are putting the CDN logs into this bucket, and for the origins we are pointing to our S3 bucket, which you can see down here too. And here is a detailed configuration of this origin. We don't need to make an SSL connection to our bucket, so we'll keep the origin protocol at HTTP only. And probably you can leave the rest of the configuration unchanged. And for the behaviors section, we have a configuration to redirect all the HTTP traffic to HTTPS. So anyone who visits http://bytesize.tv will be bounced to https://bytesize.tv. And as I said, we are doing an HTTP to HTTPS redirection, and I haven't touched most of the parameters here, so they are at their default values mostly. The only thing that I altered from its default value is this compress objects automatically flag, so that we can use gzip compression in our CDN. And that's all there is for the CDN configuration. Next up, we'll see what to set up in the DNS to tie everything together. For this, we'll go to Route 53 and we'll find the hosted zones and navigate into Byte-Sized.tv hosted zone. And for the A record of the domain, which is Byte-Sized.tv, we have defined an alias, and that alias points to our CloudFront CDN. So let us clear this one and redefine it to see how it's done. So here's our Byte-Sized.tv CloudFront distribution, and we'll need to do the same configuration for our www.bytesize.tv DNS record too. And when everything is configured and we have waited for a while for all the DNS changes to propagate, we can navigate to Byte-Sized.tv on our browser. And that's basically how you set up a CDN-enabled, damn fast, static website backed by CloudFront CDN and persisted by Amazon S3, where the deployment process is automated using Buddy, which also concludes our episode. To sum up, in this episode we have learned how to automate the deployment of a static website to S3 using Buddy, and we have created a notification to update the Slack channel whenever we make a new release, and then we have learned how to configure CloudFront, S3 buckets and Route 53 to serve our static website as fast as possible. And in the following few episodes we'll kind of divert from this CI/CD deployment DevOps workflow thing because I want to dive a little bit into the fundamentals of JavaScript and discuss some of the important building blocks so that we can have fun with higher level things like, I don't know, React, Redux, or Reflux, or things like that. But before going to those funner things, I believe that we need to make our foundations properly set up. So that's why I want to invest some time in those areas specifically. And until then, may the source be with you.